Exciting news on both Cybercab and Optimus production, as well as loads of other stuff, thanks to Lars Moravy in Herbert Ong's new interview. We're talking hidden Cybercab features, a surprise announcement coming for Giga Texas soon, and the insane modular production system that's about to let Optimus scale at rocket speed. If you want the real story on how Tesla is building the future faster than anyone expected, you're in the right place. Hello, I'm Will. Welcome to Tesla Jigsaw. Prepare to be blown away.
We are watching Cybercabs coming out of the Giga Texas. We're watching all over the United States. We're seeing 150 of them in Giga Texas. Can you tell us how is the production of the Cybercab ramp going?
And so it's built for scale. And in order to scale at the level we want, you have to build things and test them and build them again and test them and build them again and test them. So where we're at now, like the production lines are installed, like we're running them. All the cabs you see coming are part of that test fleet, and like majority of them gone into training with autopilot. You know, our models are great, but they still need to train. You've seen the training vehicles with the steering wheels and the pedals, ironically, just from Cybertruck. It's kind of funny, Cybertruck emblem and the Cybercab. But you know, so majority of them have gone there. We've just started the burn-in process on the burn-in track that we built, you know, on the edge of the campus on the other side of the highway. And that's because we know that like early manufacturing, early product, there's always issues. Yep. Whether it's, you know, production quality, supplier quality, design, infant life, whatever. And that's where we are. It's like every unit we build is not just a production unit, it's also a test unit. And we're trying to learn as much as we can from those as we get ready to scale to levels that I don't think people really have fully absorbed yet. You know, line's over 90% automated all in, and like, I don't know, I guess I expected us to have more issues. I think the automation's ahead of schedule, actually. I'm impressed at the rates we're able to achieve already, the speed anyway. We maybe made 150, I'll stick with that number if that's what you think we built. 1,000.
Lars mentioned about 150 test units, but it's clear based on Joe Tegmeyer's drone footage, it looks like the total number of Cybercabs built is actually much higher than that. Joe's been filming them for months, and when I asked him at the Tesla takeover what he thought the number was, he said more likely in the high hundreds a few weeks ago, and he's seen a lot more vehicles leaving the factory and being shipped out. Lars was clearly hiding the true production number there. One thing's for sure though, the Cybercab ramp is accelerating fast, and as Lars just said, production is already 90% automated, and Tesla's clearly building serious momentum towards volume production. Right, on to the next clip. Blink and you'll miss it.
All right, so in a week from Tuesday, there'll be some cool news about things happening on the campus at Texas, and I can't talk about it right now, but it's part of the scaling effort, so.
Told you it was quick. What big announcement might that be? I don't think it's about the giant Optimus factory. We already know they're building that one. It's going to be roughly the same size as Giga Texas and eventually pump out 10 million robots a year. That's already public knowledge. Thanks again to Joe Tegmeyer for this wonderful drone footage of the factory being built. What Lars seemed excited about is probably Cybercab related, likely some major factory expansion news that will allow them to scale up Cybercab production much faster than people expect. I'm not really sure. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Is there anything that is being completely underestimated that people out there just don't know that you've done with the Cybercab that they haven't realized or appreciated quite yet?
I mean, you said the word, but I don't think you really like feel it the same way I do, but it's efficiency. And like, it's not efficiency in terms of like watt hours per mile. That's okay. That's pretty cool. Right. But like, it's efficiency in the end-to-end process, from like raw material in to vehicle out in terms of cost. Like if you think about what is the most important thing with autonomous vehicles in the future, it's cost of per mile or cost ownership. And to really build something that can be as efficient as Cybercab, you need to start at the white sheet of paper. The other, you know, our competitors out there, I think Zoox gets it. They started white sheet of paper, right? Yeah. Waymo's like buying a car and then putting a bunch of compute on top, and that's probably not efficient enough. But I think when I read business outlooks from, you know, like ARC or Wells Fargo or whoever about autonomous vehicles, like I don't think they actually understand the efficiency. It's kind of, they're gonna see some, you know, operational costs that like blow their minds. And I think that's, you know, because it starts with the CapEx up front to build a car. Right. It's like every bit of energy that goes into that car and like how it operates, like from well to waste in terms of charging, recharging, supercharging, has been considered on that product. And like, I don't think anyone else can do that. Like, they don't have the all of those things in house. We build things from metal, from ingot, from pellets, like from sand in the earth, and turn it into vehicles, and like we do that at our factories. And then we build the compute, and we write the software, and we own the charging, and we own the service. But really, like if you were rewriting a playbook about Tesla, you'd think we had this idea for a really long time.
Yep, they have been saying this all for a very long time. You'd think more people by now would catch on to Tesla's dominance, wouldn't you? No doubt yourself watching this already knows the real reason behind their rocketing lead. They do as much as possible in-house, from their own lithium refineries to their custom AI chips for full self-driving. The Cybercab was designed from a clean sheet with full vertical integration, using parts they manufacture themselves, plus have complete control over the compute, software, charging and service ecosystem. That end-to-end ownership is going to crush bolt-on companies like Waymo's, slashing both capex and operating cost per mile in ways even smart analysts continue to underestimate. Add Tesla's vast supercharger network, purpose-built for high-utilization robotaxi fleets, and nobody else can touch their unit economics or speed of scale. I can't believe in the year 2026 this still feels like an enormous secret that not many people seem to understand. Here's Lars discussing the ridiculously ambitious Cybercab production line design.
We drew on a whiteboard 5 years ago or something, like how we thought we would build this thing. Like everyone was like, no way. Lines, feeding lines, material in one end, cars out the other. The final line's only like 20, 25 cells. Like your final line GA is normally like 200 cells, right?
So your output per square meter is really...
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You can have an idea and a notion, but like it takes a certain amount of belief from the people that did it to actually make it happen. And like to have that belief from like myself or Elon down all the way to the people that built the machine. Mm. You can't build something like that and like not think it's going to work.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to believe it's going to work.
You got to unleash them. Otherwise, yeah.
And so I walk through and I'm like, I can't believe all of these people thought it would work.
Name another company on Earth that has that top-down freedom approach to even attempt to build products like Tesla. There is no company on Earth like this. Tesla's competitive advantage is manufacturing. Right, onto the public's perception of autonomy and the good old bums in seats approach.
But I think that public sentiment has to come with experience. People are scared of flying until they fly and they land. And then they maybe lose some fear. I think, autonomous driving is kind of similar in that regard. It's like you can tell your neighbor all you want about it until they're willing to get in and try. They're never going to really be fully not skeptical. And it's unfortunate when the media says things that maybe are misleading or untrue, but we try to take the high ground on it and stick to the facts. We've never, really come out and like fully just like aggressively rebut it. And I think that stands a lot to like where we think we are from a safety perspective and belief standpoint, keep calm and carry on. It's kind of where we go with that. And I think in the end, the product will speak for itself. I think it already is with, ever since V14, adoption rates in the US are crazy. But I don't think advertising will change it. I think it's you got to experience it. And the way we're going to get people to experience is that by offering them cybercabs that, take them from point A to point B quicker, more efficiently, and safer than they ever have before.
Quicker, more efficient, safer, and it'll be at a fraction of the cost of anything else. Coming up next, wait till you hear what Cybercab can hear.
I mean, it's so obvious that this is what you guys are doing. Tesla is known to be the leader in manufacturing. You are also known to be the leader in AI. And of course, we're assuming, and thank you for sharing, that you really are now, integrated probably more, I'm assuming, than other companies.
Can you do a cool one? Can I do a cool one?
Yes, please.
Okay,
yeah.
so like
those are really cool ones.
Our cars drive themselves from the end of line to to the logistics yard now.
Yeah.
They also go over the bump, squeak, and rattle track, listen to the noises, and document them back, and tell the people what to fix.
Oh,
we call it full self-hearing.
Nice.
That's honestly one of the coolest details for me. They've got microphones installed in the car that can listen to any squeaks or rattles while the vehicle drives itself through the test track, autonomously. Then AI then analyses those sounds in real time to catch quality issues that humans might miss. It is proper full self-hearing quality control. Pretty impressive that they're using AI even on something like this. I wonder how many other car companies do this. Let's hear how Optimus production is going at Fremont.
We're expecting that there's a transition to Optimus production. Is there something you can kind of update us on that effort of how far away or further away now with the full transition to Optimus production?
I mean, obviously, we're done.
What?
I'm just kidding.
Cut it. Cut it.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
I believed you.
I saw your face.
I believed you.
No, I mean, it's hard, right? The factory is pretty old. Our first line has landed, so we've already started to install that from our automation groups in the Midwest and in Germany. And I think even on the signature event, we showed all the machines that were already being built to build Optimus, and so those are going through last stages of field acceptance testing, FAT we call it. So
On the automation
in the groups, and getting the parts there to test the machines before we get them over here.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is we developed a way with this first line, because we knew we'd have to change a lot. It's quite modular, and also the bring up. It's kind of nice because Optimus is smaller than a car, so the bring up can be quite quick. So we do the testing at the automation groups, and then we can take that line down there, ship it here, and then hopefully, theoretically, get it powered on and hooked up and back together in 2-3 days, and then it only takes a week to get it going. And so that's proving out in the first line now, and we got 40 more to go. Lot of ways to go.
Okay.
Wow. That was 40 more to go.
I don't know. You think about all the lines. There's a lot.
Can't just do a number out there, but it's kind of a lot. It's a lot of lines.
A lot of lines. There's a lot of actuators,
Yeah.
right? There's number of actuators, and then there's each limb, and subcomponent of the limb, torso, battery. There's a lot of lines. Sublines.
Is it? Yeah. So let's say, is it more modular cell-like, or is it more serial, super
No, I
long
think it's
line?
more unboxed. It's more.
Yeah, more unboxed.
Well, it's not really boxed it's definitely tributary to the small final.
Yeah.
Optimus' first production line has landed in Fremont and installation has started. Modular design means super quick setup, with 40 more sub-lines planned. The modular design, which you can see here, which means the production line is built in separate, self-contained sections like building blocks, replacing the old way of one giant complicated assembly line like they use for cars. They can install and start these up incredibly fast. Just a few days to install and about a week to get it running. Those sublines he mentioned are basically separate mini production lines for different components like actuators, torso, battery pack and limbs. Once this first one is proven, they plan to roll out another 40 of these sub-lines, and because it's modular, they'll be able to easily copy and replicate the same setup very quickly at Giga Texas later. The one that they're building right now. Totally unrelated, but I wonder how Tesla stock's doing today in 2026. I can't help but wonder, this might look a little different once these factories are up and running. Not investment advice, of course, I'm just another plonker on YouTube.
If Gong thinks our superpower is manufacturing, it also is supply chain, because the flexibility and agility they show during that period is unmatched.
When I look at it just back from my perspective, I look at how inventory is managed, how these recoveries from these disasters occur, the quick product changeovers in the line. I actually never see anything like it, and it shows in a lot of the statistics. The supply chain, the upstream supply chain team, it's exceptional.
Yeah, I mean, they're great.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you just look at, the American-made index, right, which
Yes.
1 and 2 Tesla. But, I think that's a testament to the vertical integration, because it goes to the tier 3, tier 4 level, that we're understanding. And, localizing and not necessarily in-house, but just keeping it close to production.
Yeah. Tariffs, you think of all these things.
Yeah, tariffs.
Right?
What tariffs? Who cares?
Yeah, you're localized.
It's crazy, isn't it? Tesla's a giant company producing many different products across continents, yet it maintains startup flexibility. From repurposing chips during COVID to tariffs? Who cares about tariffs when you already build the most American-made vehicles in America? The company to me seems to thrive on common sense and good decisions at every level. In fact, I think I've just landed on why I admire this company so much. In a world where common sense and good decisions seem sparse, Tesla compounds this to humanity's benefit. There, I've just put my finger on it after all these years. Right, let's get back to more Optimus news.
So it's pretty well it's known, common knowledge, I think, that Tesla is a leader in car manufacturing. To what extent can you speak to how much of that transfers to manufacturing Optimus and other robots?
I mean, everything.
Everything?
Sure.
Like,
Like
Can you give
all
some
the things you
examples?
just said, Jeff.
Yeah.
Supply chain robustness.
Yeah.
Like the vendor management, the material management, the influx. It's everything, and those are the hard things. And I think when you think about Optimus, or even our energy products, you can see the same thing. Power walls and megapacks and our charging products that we sell. Those have the same benefit, and we're able to scale those where other people can't. And I think we're able to do that because of the background we have in high volume manufacturing from automotive. So when I think about those other products, it's everything. It's like, what a luxury a robot manufacturer, like humanoid robot manufacturer, would have to fall back on, like this foundation of understanding in terms of how do you get parts in the building, how do you move them through the building, how do you get them out, how do you manage like multiple like levels of supply chain, how do you manage multi-sourcing, how do you manage crises when there's a fire at a steel mill, like. That's the hard part of scaling. Like it's like the force majeures are crazy. Whatever product we build, whether it's a car or a power wall or a charger or a robot, like it benefits from that foundation. And then you go into the line design, and like the people designing the Optimus lines are the same ones that design our car lines. Like literally the same people. Like they aren't. It's not like we hired a new crew. And the automation groups that build the equipment are the same. Elon said this before, I'll reiterate it. Like we have three things that a lot of other humanoid robot manufacturers don't, or design, where companies don't have. We have the scale manufacturing we just talked about. We have the design of actuators and high volume, high power dense electric motors that no one else has. And then we have the real world AI implementation. So I think those are the three key legs that we're going to stand on. And you only need 3 for a chair, so it's probably good enough.
Let me just touch on the heavy use of AI inside factories for anomaly detection, real-time adjustments, and feeding lessons across teams. I actually remember talking to Farzad about this when I interviewed him. He told me that years ago when he worked there, they had these large screens and real-time monitoring systems across the factory that everyone could see. So Tesla's been doing this kind of thing for a long time. What Lars is describing now is taking that foundation to a whole new level with heavy AI involvement. He explained they're using AI for 3 major things. First, anomaly detection. Constantly watching all of the production data and instantly spotting anything that could lead to a defect. Second, real-time adjustments, where the AI can automatically tweak machines or processes on the fly. Isn't that incredible? And third, sharing lessons across teams so that if one line solves a problem, every other line and factory around the world gets that knowledge immediately. And another thing that goes unmentioned a lot, the clever part is that every physical car has a complete digital twin. Every part, every sensor reading, and every issue follows that car for the rest of its life. So the physical car and the digital twin stay connected forever. The leap that Tesla are making ahead of other car manufacturers in this area are honestly extraordinary. I could have easily made this an hour video with my commentary and all these great clips, but let's get to Herbert's final question.
When people look back to today, what do you think people would be most surprised that Tesla has accomplished by then?
I think the amount of real world AI that's going to be around you because of us is going to be mind blowing. I don't think people.
When you say real world AI,
I mean robotaxis,
Yes.
I mean cybercabs,
Yeah.
and I mean Optimus in the workplace and home, and then like everything else we have planned that we aren't even talking about. It's hard to be a visionary and think about those things when you're in the trenches trying to make them happen. But when I take a step back and I think about 5 years ago, what did we have, and like where we are today, and then 5 years from now, I really think that we're going to be living in the future. The Jetsons sort of future, and or Star Wars. Well, hopefully, we don't have like the war stuff. But
back.
the star part.
The star part, the star part.
Although we're not supposed to use the word star as much anymore.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, it's okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lars. are
Yeah, it's been great.
Let's see that.
Oh, sorry. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks, Herbert.
That's a cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
For the future. Thank you, everybody.
If you'd like to join Team Humanity and watch Tesla build the products and services that are going to impact us positively as a species, I'd highly recommend following channels like mine, of course, but Brighter with Herbert as well. He does some great work, as we love to share this optimism and excitement about what Tesla is accomplishing. Like and subscribe and watch Herbert's full interview, which I'll link in the description. There's a lot more to it than I've just covered. What's your biggest takeaway though from this? Do let me know in the comments. I'm Will. This is the Tesla Jigsaw. Thank you, patrons. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.